Hello, welcome. Hi. So I'm trying something completely new on this evening or whenever you're watching this. Hello, welcome. My name is MA and I make videos about whatever I want, doing whatever I want. And today I would like to read a book. Yay! So I'm not sure if this is legal, but I'll try to make it as personable ever. But honestly, this is just going to be a love letter to Moby. If you don't know who Moby is, literally you have him to thank for so much good music. Yeah, I always kind of knew who he was. Not gonna lie on that front, but he's definitely someone that I don't really know many details of his life. His music when I was a kid was always around. I grew up around a lot of music, so I've been privy to listen to it. But now I'm really curious to learn more about him, and I'm gonna do it through a memoir. Pretty sure he wrote himself. Anyways, I bought it at the grocery store. It was like calling. I saw it, I was like, oh, this looks interesting. So it's called Moby Porcelain, which is also the name of one of his songs. So that's interesting. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to read a chapter, a video. And yeah, if you like it, let me know. Might be easier to just read it myself. So if I see no one really likes this, then I'll just finish it myself. But let's see how this goes. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm really excited. I'm going to work on my editing too, so I get to practice and do cool things. And also show some love to one of my favorite musicians and artists, really, ever. If you don't know Moby, I also made a playlist of all of his favorite music that I like. I will leave the link down below. So let's get into it. It is story time, but not like a personal story time, like legit. Like, I might even watch this to go to bed. So if you're, get comfy, get relaxed. If you're in bed, get all cozied up. If you're on a couch with a loved one, snuggle. If you go to the washroom, pause, because we're going to get right into it. So it's Moby Porcelain, a memoir. I was really debating if I should read like everything. All right, I hope you enjoy this. Or if you fall asleep, like that's fine too. Also, Moby, if ever you see this, I love you. Your music is amazing. And I like how recently you've like re-released your music, but with like videos that have to do with like what's going on right now. Pretty cool, my dude. Pretty cool. So it starts off with a lot of like quotes. It's from Penguin Books. So I also suggest if you want to read it yourself, we can start like a book club. Oh, that's fun. We read a book together. Or you can just listen to me read the book. Whatever works. So it's by Penguin Books. And it starts off, we're not even on a page. I guess this is like, it's not even the prologue. Anyways, I'll read it. It's all like quotes of what people thought of the book. So we can go back last video if I decide to make this to the end and see if they were true. Moby is a singer, songwriter, musician, DJ, and photographer. He has sold 20 million records worldwide. Born in New York City, he now lives in Los Angeles. Cool. Praise for porcelain. So these are all quotes. So, a lovingly composed new memoir that tracks his journey from living in an abandoned factory in Connecticut to playing the hottest clubs in New York and Europe. Porcelain. Also, I need to preface that English is my second language. I know I might sound like super English, but that's because I grew up with 90s television. Truth is, I only learned really how to read, write. I could always kind of speak in English when I was like 19, which is a long time ago now. But anyway, so if ever there's things like even in French it's porcelain, don't come at me. This is me practicing reading in English, okay? So, Porcelain reads like an intimate meditation on the various contradictions Moby has resolved over the course of his 50 years. Woo. His Christian faith versus his hedonistic streak. His hunger for stardom versus his retiring nature. His respect for ambition versus his deep belief in luck. The book is also a tender ode to a vanishing New York City. That was a quote by Michaela Wood. Michael? I how do you say this name? Macao Wood of the Los Angeles Times. Okay, this makes me want to read the book. Anyways, we get the point. Should I read them all? I feel rude if I just read one and didn't read them all. I'll just read them all. Rock Mirror. Okay, next we got from Greg Cott. These names all sound like fake names, by the way. So Greg Cott from the Chicago Tribune says about this book. Rock memoirs rarely live up to expectations, but Porcelain, can I just call it Porcelain, please? Am I allowed to just call it Porcelain? Porcelain is an exception. It ranks with Kim Gordon's Girl in a Band and a handful of others in recent years as a particularly inclusive look at not just a life in music, but at the cultural and social circumstances that helped shape it. It is, by turns, self-deprecating, hilarious, and moving. This book looks so good. See, this is why I bought the book. I opened it up and I'm like, this sounds so good. Alright, now we got smaller quotes. For Barbara Spindle from from the San Francisco Chronicle writes, Moby Porcelain is a buoyant coming-of-age story set in the filthy, dangerous New York City of the 1990s. Ooh. That the musician and DJ adored. Ooh. Funny, big-hearted, and raw. Sold. Miranda Sawyer of The Guardian, London. Probably London, England, right? Not London, Ontario. There must be a London, USA too, right? There has to be. Again, it's a romp of a book. Such outrageous fun. Oh, guys, we're going to have so much fun reading this book. Oh, there's more. Oh, fuck. There's so many. Maybe I could just pretend. Okay. I'm in too deep. I can't just read one page and not the other. From people. Okay, these don't even have real, quote, people from the quotes. So people says, as much a portrait of downtown Manhattan in the late 80s and 90s as it is an iconoclastic artist's coming-of-age story. Iconoclastic. Are these people making up words? Whatever. Oh my god. I'm gonna try to not do this the whole book. Just let me do this for the first part. Then I'll really get into the story, you know? This righteous, candid memoir will fascinate the electronic musician's many fans. Ooh. Next, by Salma Rushdie, we have 10 years of Moby's life, mostly in the cryptic, dangerous, much-loved New York City of the 1990s. A life comically overcrowded, filthy, alcohol-fueled, vegan, unbelievably noisy, full of spit and semen, and some sort of Christianity, and often, suddenly, moving. The writing is terrific, enlivened by a bewildered deadpan humor that makes crazy sense of it all. His ancestor Herman Melville would, I think, be simultaneously revolted and proud. Sorry, my Frenchness is making this unbearable, isn't it? Let's keep going. By Dave Eager. This is one of the funniest and most accessible books you'll ever read about an instant regrets. About an earnest Christian, alcoholic, vegan, electronic music maker. Throughout the adventures and misadventures, Danish music festivals, and Barbadian disasters, Moby manages to stay wide-eyed, grateful, and amazed, which itself is a real gift to the reader. We feel welcome, or just as out of place as he feels. In the world of rock and raves and clubs, he remakes the music world into the form it should be. Non-exclusive, unpretentious, less about division and stratification, and more about radical inclusion. Music shouldn't exist any other way. That's probably my favorite one, even though I couldn't read every other word. And now we have the last one, by Susan Orlean. Honest, funny, and sometimes raw. Porcelain is an intimate look at the life in motion. It proves that Moby writes like he plays music, with passion and precision and heart. Those are really good quotes. I get why they added this in the beginning. So what I get from this is he's vegan. Also, from his music videos, you can kind of tell he's vegan. So we have the first page. Ooh, porcelain. A memoir. Moby. It doesn't say by Moby. It just says Moby. It's like Madonna. Love it. By Penguin Books. So we are going to start with the prologue, which is titled Parking Lot 1976. The Future. All the stores in the Dock Mall in Stratford, Connecticut were closed for the night, except for the fresh and clean laundromat. My mom was inside the laundromat wearing blue jeans and a brown winter jacket that she bought at the Salvation Army for $5. She stood at a cracked linoleum counter underneath flickering fluorescent lights, smoking a Winston cigarette and folding clothes. Some of the clothes were ours, and some belonged to our neighbors, who sometimes would pay us to wash and fold their laundry. On this March night, the storefronts were dark. The parking lot was empty except for a silver Chevy Vega and one other car. The cold was wet and heavy, and the piles of snow in the corner of the parking lot had turned gray and were melting in the rain. Every 2 weeks, I'd find myself at the docks, doing laundry with my mom. I would help her, or just sit in the fiberglass shell chairs in the laundromat and watch the giant dryers spinning in their fast, lopsided way. My mom had been unemployed for over a year, and her last relationship had ended when her boyfriend tried to stab her to death. Sometimes I would find her crying while she folded the neighbor's clothes. She would be folding furiously, a cigarette lodged in her mouth, tears falling onto the neighbor's t-shirts. I was 10 years old. Honestly, it kind of sounds like not my full childhood, but my later years childhood. That's so sad, yeah. After helping her sort laundry, I would usually go outside and walk around the empty parking lot. I would wander behind the mall, past the loading docks and the rusting dumpsters, and walk down the ruined docks that gave the mall its name. The dock was black and burned. At some point it had a purpose, but now it just sat stoic and resigned in the dark Housatonic River. Sometimes, I was lucky, I'd see a giant river rat scurrying in and out of holes in the mud. This night in March 1976, it was too cold and rainy to go exploring, and the laundromat was choked with cigarette smoke. And sitting next to the washing machines on the cold fiberglass seats, watching my mom smoke and fold and cry, made our poverty seem even more vicious. So, I spent the evening in the car, huddled in my wet thrift store down jacket, playing with the radio. The rain made a steady drumbeat on the roof of the Vega, and I kept spinning the dial back and forth on the AM radio. I was indiscriminate when it came to music. If it was played on the radio, I loved it. I assumed that people playing music on the radio knew exactly what they were doing and wouldn't, under any circumstances, play music that wasn't perfect. Every week, I listened to Casey Kasem's American Top 40 countdown and memorized the songs that he played. I didn't have favorites. I loved them all equally and religiously. From the Eagles to ABBA to Bob Seger to Barry White to Paul McCartney and Wings. I just accepted all that music played on the radio was worthy of my complete and undivided worship. My damp Wrangler blue jeans were sticking in the vinyl seat of our cold car, but I listened happily to whatever was on the radio. It was the age of disco and rock, and country and prog rock and yacht rock and ballads. Led Zeppelin coexisted binningly with Donna Summers, and Aerosmith lived peacefully with Elton John. Then I heard something new. Love Hangover by Diana Ross. I knew disco music, although I didn't think it was being particularly different from the other types of music played on AM radio, but Love Hangover was different. The opening was languid. Languid? What does languid mean? I don't know. Otherworldly and seductive. And it scared me. Anything related to sex or sensuality terrified me and made me want to go watch Looney Tune cartoons. Whenever I watch TV with my mom, either the characters on Mode or the Love Boat hinted at it or hinted at intimacy, I froze and waited silently for the moment to end. But Love Hangover was different. First of all, it was on the radio, so it had to be good. Second of all, it sounded futuristic. I was obsessed with Star Trek and space, 1999, and had decided that I loved all things futuristic. The future was clean and interesting and didn't involve sad parents smoking Winstons in laundromats. So even though I knew it was about, I listened to Love Hangover all the way through. It was the futuristic song on the radio, and neither the radio nor the future had ever betrayed me. I sat watching the blurred lights of the laundromat through the rain-streaked windshield, gradually accepting that the song made me uncomfortable, but that I loved it. It represented a world I didn't know, the opposite of where I was, and I hated where I was. I hated the poverty, the cigarette smoke, the drug use, the embarrassment, the loneliness, and Diana Ross was promising me that there was a world that wasn't strained with sadness or resignation. Somewhere there was a world that was sensual and robotic and hypnotic and clean. Sitting in my mother's Chevy Vega, I imagined the glimmering city of a lifetime away from the parking lot. I could see people moving confidently through this glimmering city, striding through tall buildings with giant glass windows that looked onto disco and space sports. As the frenetic disco outro of Love Hangover played, I imagined people dancing, all wearing white and looking like robot angels. The song ended. I turned off the radio. I stepped out of the car into the rain and looked at the parking lot stretching all the way to the river, empty except for melting snow and puddles. Through a plate glass window, I watched my mom smoking and folding, and somehow I could stand it. There was more to life than this cold, defeated shopping mall. The seed had been planted and was greatly encoded somewhere in my DNA. A disco song on AM radio had given me a glimmer of hope. Someday I would leave these dead suburbs and I would find a city where I would enter a womb. A disco womb where people would let me in and let me listen to their futuristic music. I imagine opening the doors into a disco at the top of the tallest building and into the world and seeing 1,000 people smiling at me and welcoming me inside. Yay! I hope that got you interested in this story. I truly did, because really he succeeded. So I'm curious to see how we're gonna get from point A to point Z, which is him now doing whatever the heck he wants. He's lived that life.
You guys are still here. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and remember to like and subscribe.